World.
This is an important message about coronavirus. With coronavirus still spreading, those who are most likely to get seriously ill must take extra precautions. You are at a higher risk for getting seriously ill if you are over 65 or if you have any serious underlying medical conditions, like heart disease, chronic lung disease, like asthma, diabetes, or if you're undergoing cancer treatment. If you're at a higher risk for getting seriously ill, it's essential you take extra care to protect yourself. Stay home, avoid close contact with others, wash your hands frequently with soap and water for 20 seconds, disinfect frequently touched objects like doorknobs and light switches. The choices you make are critical, and their impact is significant.
Different rules apply when it gets this late, you know what I mean? It's like after hours.
Whatever gets you through the night.
Hello, I'm an unpaid spokesman for DJ Sotovaci. I'd like to invite you to listen to his free-form music show. It's popular music the way it was never intended to be heard. Whatever gets you through the night, late nights, here on Rainier Avenue Radio World.
Whatever gets you through the night.
1, 2, get down.
What's up, big and little homies? This is Mas Vida Mara, host of Seattle Sports Weekly on Rainier Avenue Radio World, your one-stop shop for Seattle sports. We cover preps, we cover college, we cover pro, we cover it all. Huskies, Mariners, Seahawks, Garfield, South, Roosevelt, Petro, King County. This is what you want to listen to for all the sports that's happening in Seattle. Seattle Sports Weekly on Rainier Avenue Radio World.
Do you have an idea for a community project in your neighborhood? You could be eligible for up to $50,000 in funding through the City of Seattle's Neighborhood Matching Fund. Grants are awarded to grassroots projects that build stronger communities, with an emphasis on projects led by impacting Black, Indigenous, and people of color BIPOC communities. To learn more about the Neighborhood Matching Fund or to see if your project meets the criteria, visit seattle.gov/neighborhoods/NMF.
Paul Pearson, host of Star Time, and this is my real voice. Honest. You're hearing it on Rainier Avenue Radio .world.
Should have told her you were sorry.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Juan Cotto touching bases with you from the historic capital, they call it Capitol, Columbia City Theater. And we are in the back today with the Call to Conscience Black History Month Museum. And Mick Hoffman had the opportunity to bring some staff down and take a look at this. They received a tour from Tony Benton, and it sounds like you guys had a good time.
Yeah, it was a really good time, incredibly informative. So as a newer guy to the city trying to learn, it was outstanding. It was awesome.
Sarah and I will be bringing the kids to this event, and we do so every year that Tony does one of these, and it is a wonderful job. Tony Benton goes through painstaking effort to collect information from friends and family members and people who are so dynamic in our city, and it's such an important event as many people know in terms of promoting African American history and giving us an opportunity to learn more about the history of Black Seattle. And he does it so well, he does it so eloquently, and it is also an awful lot of fun. So if you were paying attention a couple of weeks ago, I came by the event that they had for Ezel's Chicken, and I came to the 40th anniversary of that, and Lord knows I have eaten a little bit of chicken in my day, and so excited about that presentation. It was great to see that Tony recognized an iconic event here, and it was such a wonderful presentation. So once again, thank you so much, Mick, for coming by and bringing your staff, and we encourage all of our listeners to come by. But when the month of February, we go directly to the back, and we are in one of the little studio offices, so we lose a little bit of that, and we have a whole new configuration. So thank you very much for being patient and welcoming. Mick, good to see you.
Good to be here.
Good. Tell us a little about what's going on in the WIAA right now. We have some tournaments and different things going on.
Yeah, we have swimming jumping off on Thursday. We have Mat Classic, 24 mats in the Tacoma Dome, boys and girls going on Friday, Saturday. And then we have district and regional district and league tournaments all over the state. So very busy time right now.
It is a very busy time, and you brought your staff here to take a look at the WIAA, but you were also saying that there were a lot of staff out. The excitement of tournament season, especially at this time of year, and we've got basketball coming up in a couple of weeks. But once again, it is an opportunity to show the flexibility and the nimble nature of your staff to be able to get these events put together.
Yeah, they're definitely nimble and flexible. Yeah, I mean, we're going to be traveling. Andy Barnes, just like today, he's running state swimming starting Thursday, and he's over in Yakima getting ready for state basketball with the crew over there that volunteers to help us. So yeah, it's Cindy just ran state cheer. I don't know if anybody's been on our Instagram, WIWA, but you see the light show. I mean, one of our goals this year was come up with something innovative for every event and make it an event, make it an experience, right? Make it something that touches people's hearts. And the light show that they do over there is incredible. The kids get into it. You have 500 athletes on the mat doing sing-alongs to 3-4 different songs before we start awards. So, yeah, it's pretty amazing to watch them work every day.
The use of technology, and you and I have had so many conversations about this, and I just want to digress a little bit as we move into the top of our show today in terms of how the use of technology is changing high school sports and some of the things that we see. I recently was down in Texas and drove by some of the big football stadiums, and trust me, we talk about holding the game at Husky Stadium and at CenturyLink Field or T-Mobile or whatever they call Lumen Field. And you go down to Texas, I mean, they host their games in high school stadiums that might be on par with our stadiums here, with the full video display boards and everything. And I recently went to my alma mater, the O'Day Fighting Irish, and they have a giant board up now. They have a video board up in the gymnasium. Really cool looking apparatus. And then we went to I think Seattle Prep also. They could be outdone. The Jesuits have to put up an apparatus, and I thought that was cool. And looking at this, is there a concern over the equity? I mean, you look at Rainier Beach High School. I don't think the Seattle Public Schools anytime soon are going to put up new video boards. But do you feel there's a sense of equity and the haves or the have-nots? It felt a little uncomfortable for me to see that, but then again, I am an O'Day guy. But it's a very impressive board, and we talk about the value of athletics and so forth, and I believe it is an entertainment industry still. Sometimes that high school sports is. Tell us how you feel in terms of some of these things that you're seeing in high school.
Yeah, I think we've always had an equity issue. I don't think that is anything new to us. It's just right now it's way more visual. with technology, because technology, used to be people had a cool scoreboard that would show a kid's number and the number of fouls or points, right? And that was like, wow,
big deal.
Now we got
Big
video
deal.
boards, and with technology, you can record it off your phone and pump it through up on that video board and do that. We do that right now with some student productions. So I think, there is a real concern with that and what that looks like. And so one of the things we're doing is we're trying to work with OSPI and the legislators to try to find some funding that can be recycled through to schools with a equity lens on it. That's been a lot of our work. Pat McCarthy from the Metro League was the board president when I got hired. And first day he was there to welcome me into the office, stopped me in the parking lot and said, Mick, equity has to be our focus. I mean, Pat's committed to that. And so, that I remember that vividly. And so everything we do is trying to work through that lens. So there's definitely, there's some public schools, not just a public-private. There's public schools with a lot of cash and strong boosters. And so our job is to try to level the playing field. That's why we started in 1905, was for competitive equity. And it just looks different. Now we don't have the adults jumping in the games like they did back then. But we have arms races with other contraptions. So.
Well, I tell you, some of the guys I saw at the ONA game recently, we don't want to see you guys on the floor. And they probably would say the same thing about me. And I would agree with them. Let's just stay up in the stands and watch the game. Must have been a lot of fun back in the early 1900s. Tell us about technology. Tell us about what is starting to become available to the schools, to the students, and to the coaches.
Well, I think there's there's a variety from the ADs to the students to the kids. So, my son, he's 28 now. And so 10 years ago, it was like riveting technology that they could take their game film and cut it, right? And he could get it on his phone from his coach to do that. They're doing that stuff on the sidelines real time now. And it's not overly expensive. And so what you see on TV, we're seeing is becoming far more common in high school. And so there's a lot of in-game teaching tools. And you think about that, is that fair? Absolutely, if everybody has access to it, because the cost is coming down. And for students that learn by seeing rather than doing, it's an advantage. So there's in-game things, pitchers and baseball, we're seeing it a lot. They can review form at our track meets. So that's all available. And then the post-game analytics and all that is there. Tools for athletic directors, I think, is where we've spent a lot of time going out, finding partners and getting these tools for our schools at no cost. So for that equity reason, and trying to save athletic directors time so they can address the other issues on developing coaches. We've talked a lot about young coaches, and we need athletic leadership to help cultivate that, to keep them in the game, spending time getting to know their kids, being able to go to the games and watching them play. And so, technology is incredibly important to the work now.
When I was at Highline High School, we had a preferred vendor system. The district had a preferred vendor system. I wanted to buy a couple of cameras, and they gave me the preferred vendor system. And I think it was the cameras were exorbitantly expensive, even for 2008 inflation adjusted dollars. So I could get the cameras that we can take and then take them and, put the little plug in and videotape the game. Now, I mean, you're right. It's all on the, it's all in the cloud now. So, which is so cool. Yeah. But back then I thought, geez, so what I did was, I went on eBay, and I was able to get 4 cameras that were video cameras, and they were just a couple of years model prior, but they had the things that my coaches and I needed. And instead of buying 2, I was able to buy 4, and then they could all do their scouting, and then we could come home and burn DVDs off of it. And I went ahead and just paid up for it out of my own pocket, right? Because there was no because the rules wouldn't allow me to do that. Would you explain to us, and would you explain to people out there that the districts, each district has different types of procurement on this type of thing, and so it coaches like myself who have an extra couple of shekels in their pocket, I can go around that, but a lot of coaches are tied to these to the district policies around procurement of video cameras, and that also sometimes can put them at a position where they need to have additional shekels, and they may have to do a fundraiser to buy something to like you said, educate the kids.
Yeah, I mean, especially now with our schools, some of the budget situations they're running in the Seattle schools, cutting $100 million, right? Now of $1 billion budget, it's still 10%. $100 million, it's $100 million. So public schools are under the state laws. There's very strict guidelines for public dollars, and including ASB, Associated Student Body Funds. So as far as how you can purchase now, it's become a little more vibrant system, not quite as archaic. There's preferred vendors that are out there that you can, like KCAC, King County has a bid system that we used to use a lot out of Washington or out of Vancouver to be able to buy. So so there are some pretty stringent ones, and that's where maybe the equity issue becomes more like you're talking about, that you bought that, you were able to do that for your team. Booster clubs, right? They're outside, and where the guardrails are on that is around, one, district policies, but then number two, on Title IX, right? And the playing in to make sure if your booster club goes out and buys your football team $100,000 a year, the school's still responsible to balance that out in some way, shape, or form for the girls' programs. And so it's not necessarily baseball versus softball; it's more general by gender sports. So, schools have to be on top of that, and sometimes they don't allow booster clubs who want to help. But yeah, it drove me crazy, honestly. Leah, our CFO in our office, sometimes say, Mick, you're not in public schools anymore. Like, we can just go buy this right now.
Right.
Because I'm like thinking we have to go get 3 bids and do all that. So we still want to be good stewards of the money, but we get rid of some of the bureaucracy. So you just have to do a good job managing money.
Is that one of the things that gets discussed at the level of the WIAA? Do coaches bring up this type of conversation, especially with the sensitivity around ASB funds and funds that are generated? For example, if the kids go out and do a car wash, I had our football team do a car wash, and we collected a couple $1,000s. We had a poker tournament with the use of the kids, and that goes into a pot that's separate, but it only has specific uses on things.
Yeah, that's not really, we don't get into how they manage their money. That's not our deal. That's a school district policy. So again, you're talking more, whenever you're talking an employee-employer relationship, handling of funds and that's really, we have some requirements for what trainings they have to have. But as far as personnel, way coaches are behaving or how they're handling money or how they do money, what we do, so we've provided some opportunities for schools like GoFan electronic ticketing. So you see a lot of electronic ticketing. What we did at WI is I got together with the executive director of WASBO, which is the Washington Association of School Business Officials, Brianne. She's great, and talked to her about it, and she's aligned with the auditor. So what we did is we made sure the vendor we were partnering with was street legal in the state of Washington. Washington has the most stringent ASB laws in the country to protect the students' money, right? It can be frustrating, bureaucratic at times, but it's intended to do that. So what we did is we went in and made sure this was legal, right? That it wasn't going to be an audit finding for a school. And then we bring it forward for our schools as a possibility. Some of them went with other companies. They're responsible to make sure that they're in compliance at that point. So.
And Rick, if this is done properly and everybody follows the rules, that should also protect the coaches as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. The idea, I mean, when I was an athletic director or even when I was a coach, I don't want to handle the money, right?
Yeah.
There needs to be a separation. I don't want to do it in general because as soon as somebody gets mad about playing time, they're accusing you of something. And so why expose yourself? And so it's good to have that separation. Electronic tracking gets rid of tickets. It gets rid of handling cash. I mean, honest mistakes, making bad change. I mean, back in the day, people are, we'd run a football game and we'd either have to go drop the money downtown at midnight or people are leaving it in their cars or packing it in their house because the rules at that time said if we put it in the safe at the school, then we couldn't go. It became school money. It wasn't ASB money from general fund and ASB funds. Just some of these goofy, archaic rules. They've gotten rid of some of that. They've caught up with the times. But electronic ticketing eliminates all that cash handling.
Well, let me tell you, I was out last year and I was the parent handling the money as people were coming to an O-Day game at West Seattle Stadium. And at 6 o'clock, it was okay. At 7 o'clock, there was a lot of cash out there.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm scared.
Yeah.
Because someone can come in. I mean, literally, someone who's ambitious can come in and try to take that. They're going to walk out with a healthy haul.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's scary.
Yeah. I mean, I was down in Vancouver as a building AD. And the lady, she's efficient. She's doing the front tickets. She's sitting out in the hallway at a table and she starts counting up the money for the night. And she was counting the 20s at the time. This group of young people come by, snatch the money out of her hand, go running through the park. I'm down supervising the game. So we call the police. By the time we run, the money's gone. It's gone. That's school money. And so, we tighten up the protocols, but you're dealing with school people who aren't professional at handling money, right? A lot of times they're volunteers like what you did, people just trying to help out and save money. And so that's why we like the electronic ticketing. And at our state events now, we actually charge more for cash tickets than all-in cost of electronic tickets, because it saves us money in labor and loss by doing electronically. We have cash available if people need to do it, but it's evolved to the point you have a square there. You show up, you don't have to get on site and punch in and create an account. Just swipe your credit card. People argue with us about that. And I always ask them, well, how do you buy your gas now? They swipe at the pump. And guess what? When you swipe there, they're selling your information. There's a reason 50 emails show up in your box every day that are junk mail. We don't sell the information. Like, we're being respectful of our customers. So, things are evolving, and schools are really, really good in general of taking care of their patrons.
You are with Juan, Cotto, and Mick Hoffman on WIAA Primetime, our Tuesday afternoon conversation on your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world. The Call to Conscience Black History Month Museum is right outside our door. We are in the back studio with producer Daniel Bellis, and we are talking about technology in the WIAA and also in high school sports. But please bring your family, please bring your friends. Daniel, pop that up one more time. Thank you. To the Call of Conscience Black History Month Museum. It's open from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. 11 to 7. And like I said, Sarah and I are going to bring my children down. Clemente got to see it a couple of weeks ago, just before we celebrated Ezel's Chicken with Tony B, and Mick and his team took a tour on Friday with only a tour that only Tony can lead. And I'm sure that was a lot of fun. And then one of those things that I think that really helps give you a better understanding of the Seattle area community, Nasty Mix. And let's see, they're going to be at Columbia City Theater right here on Thursday, February 15th at 6 o'clock. That's the Nasty Mix Rewind. Is that what that is? No, the Nasty Mix Reunion. I'm sorry. Having a hard time with my glasses. Nasty Mix Reunion. Is that the Nastiness Rodriguez?
Nasty Mix Records.
That's Nasty Mix Records. So if you're into that musical genre, and I know there are some hits that came out of that, come down here on Thursday evening, 6 p.m., and you'll get a chance to take a look at that. Moving away from just how it impacts sports and the business side of a little bit, Mick, let's talk about how this impacts the parents, who now have an opportunity to communicate with coaches, with athletic administrators. Tell us how technology has helped us create an opportunity to improve the lines of communication.
Yeah, I mean, with texting and group text and Slack and everything else that's out there, it's much easier. In some ways, that's good. In some ways, I'll give you the best example I give you about technology is a good friend of mine, Daryl. He was an AD back in the day. He's 84 years old now. We talk every day. And when I got into the AD role and I'm dealing with emails, I'm like, Daryl, how'd you guys do this job without computers and all this? And he just looked at me square in the eye and he just said, we did a lot less. Right? And you think about it, because you had to pick up the phone and actually connect with somebody, not a cell phone, a hardline phone. Kids can't even fathom that. So I think there's a lot of benefit to it if it's done in a healthy way. Also you get those emails at 11:30 at night after a game, a kid doesn't get enough shots, or she got injured, and we get them from the parents, and so I think there's also creates a lot more pressure. I think that's why we see so much more turnover. So if it's done in a healthy way, it can solve a lot of issues. So I think it's great. I'll tell you, the best technology for parents is the streaming, and Rainier Avenue Radio does a great job with streaming. You can have friends and family around the world now get to see students participate. And what do kids love about playing? One, it's fun. Number two, they like being seen, right? Why social media is so big.
Being seen.
And so by having the ability to stream, and with the equipment being simplified more and more, I mean, Daniel's a heck of an engineer, and I can only imagine what he had to do back in the day and how much, easier that's getting with different technology. That's awesome. I mean, for parents who traveled, rather than feeling guilty, at least they can stay connected and get on and watch on demand. So I think the negatives are very small compared to the potential positive of how technology can be used.
It's interesting when we, I think it was Rainier Beach played a game versus a team from Arizona a couple of years ago. And the number of people that contacted us from Arizona, they heard that the game was going to be on this little streaming Rainier Avenue Radio World. We received so many comments in the little streaming area from people in Arizona. Juan, you're pronouncing the name wrong. Juan, this is such a great broadcast. Juan, and then it was just really unique. You know, I mean, it was like there were people who obviously the trip from Phoenix or Scottsdale to come to Seattle is a expensive one for a lot of families, but they were right there watching their team and following it, and it was probably one of the larger viewed games that we had.
Yeah, I mean, our numbers continue to climb, which is absolutely incredible. Now with automated cameras, you don't need an expert like Daniel, right? You
always need an expert like
when
Daniel.
When you want to do a high class production, that's where you use the experts, right? But you can at least get. You think about freshman basketball. How many people are going to go live stream a freshman basketball game? We look at varsity contests, but those freshman kids, that might be the last game they ever play in. They may not even get to the JV. And so again, it's a great tool, and we're very, very appreciative of the people who do it.
Data management is an important point, and you brought it up a little earlier, touching on the fact that the WIAA does not sell the data that they get on the platforms that they use, and that's critical. And you said 50 emails. I got about 122 emails. I'm on too many people selling my information. But how are student athletes' records and schedules and other pertinent information? How is that all managed by the district, and what role does the WIAA have in looking over that?
Yeah, we don't house any personal student data of any kind. We may have some reports, whether it's through ejection reports or eligibility reports, but we don't keep those electronically. Those are only hard copies in a log file. Every 7 years, we're getting rid of them. So we're very, very cautious with that. Schools also have very stringent, and the state has really good guidelines through WASDA, the School Directors Association, that puts out guidelines on how to handle that to make sure they're in compliance with state law. So that's, with FERPA, everybody hears about FERPA and HIPAA. It goes way beyond that. And that's a good thing. I mean, you think about some of the stuff we deal with in our office as a 16-year-old making a bad decision, right?
Yeah.
And it's bad enough with technology now that it's always out there, right? But as far as keeping that as a formal record, we're not keeping that as a formal record, right? We have it, we deal with it, 7 years, it's gone. People want to, we're a private nonprofit, so we're not public disclosure. And so we are able to do a lot of protection for kids. If we do have to come up with a document for some type of situation where redacting names, we're never going to expose a child, because, I mean, heck, adults make enough bonehead decisions. Imagine a kid who's just learning. So yeah, we try to be really careful with that. Same with the partners we partner with GoFan, and people are always worried about their credit cards and stuff being taken, and that is not saved in the systems. That's why you have to enter it every single time. Swipe it. It's not you recall like you can do on your computer or whatever. And so we try not to keep any data. We don't want to be responsible for it.
Mick, the sport that I coached and loved for almost 17 years is a very physical game. It's the sport of football. I head football coach, and it just seemed like every single year there was just a big stack of paperwork that went along with that. And I know that I probably speak for football coaches all over the country in terms of dealing with getting kids signed up for spring football, and then heading into the summer. The paperwork can be mountainous. The paperwork is intense, and a lot of information needs to be taken. And it's obvious to protect this kid, the school district, and the parents and the families. And we certainly get it, and we certainly had to be patient with it. Is there a way? And before I go into this, I know there's other sports that have the same thing. I mean, there's certain aspects in terms of the physical nature of the game, and they want to protect the students. The paperwork for that, is there a way that technology has been used recently to cut down on some of that?
Yeah, big time. Almost all schools have gone electronic. We got a partner, Final Forms, and I can give you a bunch of that detail when we come back from the break. How's that?
We are going to come back in about 2 minutes for the break. This is Juan, Cotto, and Mick Hoffman on your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not shouting "Ba-dee-ya" at city council meetings, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
You probably have questions about COVID vaccines. Here are some answers about how they're being made.
How are COVID vaccines being produced faster?
Usually, vaccine testing and production are separate steps. But because of the pandemic, vaccines are being developed on parallel tracks. So both steps are happening just at the same time.
How are the vaccines being tested?
Right now, several different COVID vaccines are in testing. Each go through multiple clinical trials with up to thousands of volunteers.
How do vaccines get approved?
Not all COVID vaccine versions will make it to the final stages of testing and approval. Produced vaccines that do not pass clinical trials will be destroyed. But for those that do pass, a team of medical experts will examine test results and possible side effects. If the vaccine is effective and safe, it gets approved and gets to you. Go to covidvaccinewa.org to learn more. A message from the state of Washington.
Love food? Here's some storage tips to keep it fresh longer. Store cut fruits and vegetables in the fridge. Place in reusable containers. Keep bread in the freezer for longer storage. 40% of food in the U.S. goes uneaten. Save money, save food, save the planet. Visit Seattle Public Utilities for more tips.
Celebrate Black History Month at the Call to Conscience Black History Month Museum, formerly Columbia City Theater, 4916 Rainier Avenue South. Call to Conscience Black History Month Museum features exhibits and installations. It's a guided tour.
Installations include the Seattle Black Panther Party, the Black Heritage Society of Washington, the Rainier Cinema Black Movie Posters Collection, the Hartsfield Family Enslaved Quilt Collection, Revere XR, Negro League Baseball's Seattle Steelheads, NAACP Washington, Alaska, and Oregon, Giselle's Famous Chicken, Nasty Mix Records, Sir Mix-a-Lot, South Seattle Emerald, the Museum of History and Industry, Community Keepsakes and Memorabilia, the Total Experience Gospel Choir and Pat Wright, the Black Prisoners Caucus, a display from the Tacoma Buffalo Soldiers Museum.
Tuesdays through Sundays from 11 a.m. 7 p.m. There will be no other location where you can celebrate the achievements and the achievers of the Pacific Northwest and Seattle while recognizing the Black excellence that shines today. For more information, visit RainierAvenueRadio.world or call 206-290-9685.
RainierAvenueRadio.world is your 24/7 digital media hub. Tune in at RainierAvenueRadio.world. Also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and TuneIn apps.
Juan, Cotto, and Mick Hoffman touching bases with you from the back. I want to say the back studio here at the Columbia City Theater, 4916 Rainier Avenue South, and so impressed with the commercials, Daniel. You guys do some really good job on those commercials. I love the fancy bumper music. And so it's so much fun to listen to Rainier Avenue Radio, and I hope that you enjoy listening to us sit here and talk about high school sports every Tuesday. Was that? Let's hear that. Was that Tony B?
Wow.
Tony B, ladies and gentlemen, is jumping through having one of those wow conversations. Thank you very much. We do this every Tuesday afternoon at 3 o'clock, and Mick was just speaking about how technology is streamlining some of the ways that we are collecting information that goes on the forums for kids to participate.
Yeah, so we partnered with the company Final Forms and
Final Forms,
and it is awesome stuff.
Yeah.
There's a few other companies, but Final Forms was the one we selected for a variety of reasons. And we originally started with them as a way to track coaches' ed. So, you may recall back when you're coaching, every 3 years you had to do the 5 hours of training on some specific topics. And as an AD, we're keeping spreadsheets on you, right? And then the idea was, the big bad WIAA is going to come in and audit you at some point, so you better have all your stuff in order.
Absolutely.
Well, what Final Forms did is we're able to automate all that. So we found a platform to put all the classes on, automatically uploads through an API, and now an AD can go on there and look up Juan, Cotto, Mick Hoffman, Daniel Bellis, and we're either in red or green. If we're red, it means we haven't met all our coaching requirements. If we're green, it means we're good to go. Well, fast forward that, what they really started off doing, their bread and butter of their business was student forums. And so now you think those big thick clearance packets used to go home.
Yes.
And a parent would wait in line for an hour, get up there, and they'd be missing one signature or one page, and you kick them out of line. They go to the back yelling and screaming and have to wait to come back through because you're processing. And then me and my secretary would be there for hours, making sure all our spreadsheets are updated. We had every signature all automated now online. So a parent can do it from home or their office or their phone, submit the payment electronically. All the information is readily available so they can read it, hopefully, before they sign it, do electronic signatures and submit it. And then you as a coach, when you go that first day of practice, you're not asking kids to bring in a clearance card or anything. You're actually looking on your phone or tablet or whatever, and it's going to say whether they're red or green. Green's good to go. Red, sorry, you need to go back and here's what you're missing, and it's right there for parents to do. So it has simplified the process immensely. And because of that, they started off in our state. They had about 40 schools. They partnered with us 2 years ago. They have like 290 schools right now.
Wow.
That are using it because it's such an efficient tool to keep records. And their record keeping is a little different than what we do. They do have to save those and store them. Right. But again, as a bigger business, they have a bunch, the security that's in place as best you can in today's world. So there's some phenomenal tools out there, the technology that is saving ADs and parents a lot of grief.
Are you getting feedback from the parents? Are you getting feedback from the coaches that these are actually helping?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. When things are down is when the schools hear about it. And so the convenience, one of our concerns was access. Like, we don't want a barrier. So what schools did is they set up computers in their school. So parents had to go in there anyway, pick up a packet, fill it out, and go in. So they'd come in, sit. And so the first time they go through it, they got to use it. The other nice thing is that if you have 2 or 3 students and you connect them all in the family tab, that your general information populates in all of them. So parents are doing way less. They're not doing the same thing over and over. And then when your kid goes from a sophomore to a junior, you just go in and update. You don't have to go in and redo all that paperwork, stand in line and do it again. Parents love it. Our schools love it. Coaches love it. And so that's what we've been trying to do and so we meet with them on a weekly basis, a couple of our staff members, on developing more of those. So we've kind of been their R&D. For us, what schools are getting most of that at no cost, right? And so some of that they have to pay for, some of it that's required by us, they don't have to pay for. So we've really been able to leverage good partners, kind of doing the Costco model of financing. So
Mick Hoffman, the executive director of the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association, on your community radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio .world. The digital platforms that we've become so familiar with. I remember Nancy Hopkins, the wife of Hoover Hopkins, and she sent me a friend request on Twitter, and it had to be like in 2007 or 2008. And I said, no one's going to use that.
Yeah.
And boy, did I underestimate the power of X in a variety of different ways. And now I've got so many accounts, I can't keep up with them. Some of them said they saw me on Instagram, and I was like, I don't have an Instagram account. They said, yeah, when you put something on Facebook, it shows up on Instagram. Unbelievable. How has these digital platforms helped us, number one, promote high school sports and giving better access and better, I guess, visibility and hopefully an opportunity for people to connect with their local teams or with their local interest? Second of all, is it helping us promote the mental health and well-being of our children as well?
Yeah, I'll answer the last one because we're not quite there yet, but we're working on it. As far as promoting students, kids love seeing themselves, right? I mean,
yes,
you think about it. I mean, that's what makes social media what it is. TikTok, why it blew up, Instagram with the photos. So we have a very vibrant program. Andy Knapp in our office, he saw the value of this and built it up. And we have tens of thousands of followers on all our platforms, 50, 60, 70,000 on some of them. So for a state association, that's pretty good. And we promote our athlete of the week, our RPI on there. And so students, and then at our sporting events, we always have 2 or 3 staff members there specifically to take pictures and update all our platforms. And so we're pushing out. So at state wrestling, if you watch this weekend, or swimming, you'll see every state times of every winter of the heat will be in there. Pictures if we can get them. And so we're constantly trying to update people on our social media platforms as well as our app, WIAA Live, because it's important. If we want people to care about what we do, it has to be accessible, right? And so we use that all the time. What we're working on now, and this is what we're working with OSPI and the legislators on, is around health and safety funding that would go to all schools, right? Because OSPI funds public schools. We serve all schools, public and private. And so what we're asking the legislators for is some funding that we can do more social media, more direct training of our coaches around identifying, because what we need to be able to do, who knows kids better than their as well, who knows them next to their parents is their coaches. And sometimes our coaches know them better than some parents. And so when they see a change in behavior, they need to be trained to be able to identify this is an issue, not to fix the issue, just identify it's an issue. Think back when you're coaching kids, like you saw over the course of a year, you could see drastic changes, right? And all we want coaches is to be able to be aware enough to flag it. And then who do they tell, right? Who's that go to? Parents, obviously. And then also within the schools, who are your resources in the schools so they can reach out and check in with that student to see what's going on with him or her that is going on. Because as we've said, this public world that kids live in because of social media, there's a lot of pressure on there. And as an athlete, every mistake is out there. And so we need our coaches to be our partners in identifying, not solving it again, but just identifying, flagging it, and getting students connected to help. So that's what we want to work on, a formal training program. We're talking 20-some thousand coaches training. It takes a little bit of money to do that. And that's where we're telling the state, hey, help us help them. So.
The biggest impact in our house, Mick, is the budget of the food bill. Because I tell you, one football player is eating up a lot of food right now. And I don't know where it goes on his little 170-pound body. It's just like, wow. And then, like I said, I eat a couple ounces of food and I gain 4 pounds. It just doesn't work out right. In what ways has the technology enhanced? And I know a lot of coaches are probably sitting there and they can't wait to hear the conversation on this. What ways is this enhanced scheduling? Is there a way that we can, that technology has helped us put these schedules together and that they're right and that they are coordinated and that we are all in the right place at the right time with, in football, 5 officials, and basketball, 3 officials, and everyone there and at the time they're supposed to be there?
Yeah. I mean, that's the beauty is, we use Arbiter for our game scheduling, and the officials use it. So Arbiter. Yep. And so they're on, and we use it to pay the officials. So by going to electronic, officials now get paid in 48 to 72 hours, as opposed to 5 to 8 weeks like it used to be. So younger officials really like that, right? But anyway, so by being on the same platform, which we switched to during COVID, everybody has the access to the same information in live. So if a game gets changed, it messages the officials, it messages the ADs, it messages the coaches. It can even message parents, depending on who they put in to receive that. So think about rainouts in the spring, right? As a baseball guy's fast pitch game gets rained out, boom, you change it, bam, automatic message goes out. Back in the day, we had the phone tree, right? Phone tree is like that now. And so it has really helped with that. Also today, I was told by an AD down in the Tacoma area, they're reorganizing their leagues with the reclassification going on. And they're actually going to hire an individual that's going to build all their schedules for all their sports to verify that it's balanced for everybody, homes and aways, no more than 2 games any week in certain sports or long home and away ring. Also to try to leave Wednesday nights open so students and coaches can have a night off. Think about that. Make sure shared facilities are balanced out. And he's going to do it all with technology. He's really, really good with the technology. So they said, great, you've got the skill set of how to best use this. We're going to pay you to do it as a league. And so they're going to use some of their league funds to do it. Brilliant. So there's, again, saving AD some time, making them more efficient, and $1,000 a school or $500 a school, whatever it's going to cost them. One missed bus, right? One missed reschedule with officials, they've made their money back. So our ADs are getting very savvy using technology now.
That's so awesome. And once again, the especially on the rainout situations, also especially in emergency situations, if there is snow or something like that, it's so much easier to make sure that everyone's all on the same page. And if something gets canceled, it's canceled.
Yeah.
And you don't have people show up to your building.
Yeah, and going back to the final forms and those kind of technology tools, think about it. You probably carried your medical kit, right? Old metal one, I'm guessing,
Yep,
right?
it sure was.
And you had a pile of papers you rolled up in there with emergency phone numbers and all that. Well, guess what? Now you have that on your phone. So the contact information. So we're very specific with final forms on what data can be stored. So the parent's name and contact information are in there. So if something would happen to a student, they can go right to their phone, click on the app, click on the roster of the student, get the parent emergency contact information, and call or text that parent to let them know there's been a situation with their son or daughter. So you're not trying to find the medical kit. It didn't get wet. All the papers in their room left on a table somewhere. So there's a lot of things that really are health and safety related that are simplifying the world of a coach and an AD.
He is Mick Hoffman. He is the executive director of the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association. I'm Juan Cotto, Rainier Avenue Radio voice, host, and personality. And this is WIAA Primetime, our Tuesday afternoon, 3:00 p.m. discussion on sports at the high school level. And we appreciate Mick doing this. Call to Conscience, the Black History Month Museum, February, every day, 29 days this year? 29 days this year. This is a leap year. And so we get the extra day of Black History Month. And we hear all the jokes about this being the shortest month. But why don't you take a long visit here at the museum and take one day to learn a little bit about the Black history in the city of Seattle. It is an awesome museum put together by the curator, Tony B., with a host of folks who have helped him with this in the exhibits. We've seen it. Mick has seen it. I'm sure I'm going to bring my family again so we can spend some time here and really look at everything. But come down here, really have a pleasant experience. Then, of course, this Thursday, February 15th, for all of you that are going to go out and hang out on February 14th and celebrate your loved one. On February 15th, you can come back and do a little dancing as we're going to have a Nasty Mix reunion here at the Columbia City Theater. That's going to start at 6 p.m. And you're going to love and enjoy that if you are a Nasty Mix fan, which I believe that all of us are. Technology can aid in injury prevention, Mick. It can work with the trainers on making sure that we can keep our kids safe, and we can make sure that we can keep our kids able to recover from injury, because injury is a part of sport. And you come back and you're from injury, and the technology can help improve. It can improve the timelines and help kids get back dramatically quicker. Technology can help with the different types of treatment that they receive. And I'm just wondering, from your specific perch, the advancements in sports science, and if we've seen wearable technology. We've seen the helmets and the technology that can impact, that measure the impact of blows to the cranial area and other areas of the body in football, and also in basketball and certain sports where the physical contact is key. What types of training methodologies are coming out of the whole area of technology?
As far as health and safety?
Yes.
So, I mean, there's some things where we've distributed 200 wet bulb globes to help with heat, exhaustion, and injury. Air quality tools are getting better. Again, these are tools that we're trying to bring in through with some legislative money. Portable AEDs are another one. Physicals now, people doing heart screenings to see if there's any abnormalities to try to protect from sudden cardiac. So those are some tools that have been around for a little bit. The other one is there's cognition testing that can be done, baseline testing. Impact is one of the more common ones. So if a student is suspected of having some type of concussion or traumatic brain injury, you do a cognition test, you do the impact test prior to the season. And then if there's a suspected injury as part of the return to play protocol, schools are using that to see really how is that student functioning cognitively, to see if the brain is recovering. So there's some really cool things like that, in addition to electric stimulation and, some of the, depending on trainers and access. But a big one we are starting to look into is telemedicine. So when you talk about equity, there's not enough athletic trainers. Like even if it was required by law, we couldn't fill every need. And it's really expensive on top of it. And so some of the schools who don't have as much funding have a hard time securing trainers. And, part of the business of trainers is they want to not just treat at the school site, they want to treat in their clinics, right? So you need students with different types of insurance to be able to do that. So it creates somewhat of a have and have not. Rural areas are harder to get coverage than, even if they're wealthy, than urban areas where there's more medical. So the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota did this with the National Federation of High Schools as a trial. And we're actually talking to a company that's a startup now about having doctors on call and iPads. So you talk about technology available on the sidelines. You need connectivity. And if there's a injury and there's no medical people on site, you can at least do a telemedicine check-in. And so what this doctor from the Mayo Clinic, she shared with some examples. So there's one in a football game where a kid got hit and he was just having trouble. And, they're not peeling his clothes off and looking at him that way. And she said, you know what, I recommend he go in and get seen, right? That, they're going to be very cautious. They took him to the hospital. He had a lacerated liver.
Wow.
Right. And it was just from the symptoms that this doctor had. There's a couple other examples of that one kid who got hit in the groin. I won't go into the details of that, but he would have had a lifetime changing event if she hadn't, again, they didn't look, they didn't drop his pants and do anything like that. Just from what he was describing his symptoms, you need to go get looked, and they're able to save him and everything else. And so we're looking at how realistic is that to make it available, because then if we were able to secure some funding or provide funding to these doctors to do that, would all schools have some level of medical coverage? If they have their own trainer, great. But majority of schools do not have access to their own trainer or medical doctor on a regular basis at all sports, at all levels. And, that freshman girl playing volleyball is just as likely to bang her head on the floor as the varsity player is, maybe more likely with less experience. So we're trying to find a way to close some of those gaps, and technology is definitely one that we're pursuing.
Mick Hoffman, the executive director of the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association, with us today on Rainier Avenue Radio.world, and we are talking about the use of technology in high school athletics. Mick, and this sounds so futuristic, the use of virtual reality. And I remember several years ago, my son got one of those headsets. I believe it was from one of the companies, and of course it was from one of the companies, and he was walking around the living room and stumbling over stuff, but he was playing games and doing all these different things, and it was just really funny to see how much fun he was having. And then I put it on my head, and you had a whole golf course on there, and can do some really cool things. It's gaining traction in sports. I know a number of athletes have started to use more and more VR as a way to train. Are these different types of VR training methods, are they making their way into high school athletics here in the state of Washington?
We're not aware of it happening very often in very many places, but I would say in 5 years, we're probably having a very different conversation. I mean, an Oculus now, $250.
Yep.
Was like $1,500 5 years ago, right? If you could get one. And so technology changes so fast that, and you think about it from a health and safety perspective, if you can get the cost down to that level, imagine what you could do without contact for contact sports, recognizing situations. So for a quarterback or a defense trying to read a defense or an offense and looking for cues that you're trying to teach people in football, a basketball recognition of what kind of defense are you coming up the floor against. I mean, without having to go out on the floor and do it, the wear and tear on body. So I think it's definitely sooner than later, and will be a phenomenal tool for students. Again, you think back 25 years ago, the caliber of our sporting events at the high school level come where they are now. Imagine where this thing is going. So if we can keep it from being monetized as hard as what we're seeing at the collegiate level now, it'll be an awesome experience for our kids.
Mick, keeping the books is always a big thing, and you touched on a little bit of it earlier in regards to making sure that the finances are straight. No one wants to ever be accused of having something go on within their program. And you touched on some of those again, but just reiterate a little bit about just making sure that the coaches have the ability to communicate with their finance person to make sure that the finances are straight, and what role is technology playing in that.
Yeah, schools have gotten a lot better about. There's a great booster club association out there, and they'll help booster clubs get set up so they're street legal, right? That they're in compliance with all state laws, and it really is there to protect coaches. When I was coaching, you literally were the booster club. You kept the checkbook for the booster club. Like, I hated it. I did not want to do it. So but if you turn it over to a parent, and all of a sudden money gets absconded, right? Now all of a sudden, you got a bigger issue, and it happens. We hear those horror stories still to this day. But by moving electronic and working with these professional booster club associations, we can do. Marty Fortin is a guru of this in our state. And so there's enough people out there to be able to protect. Biggest thing we can tell coaches: don't handle money. Like, just don't do it, because they have so many other things going on. An honest mistake can be what somebody is a disgruntled person uses against you. So it's just not worth it. There's other people who can do that for you. And there's enough tools now to make it even safer for them. So
online learning. And we're hearing more about online learning being available through classes, and in many ways it was always available, but it seems like the computer has expanded opportunities for us to learn about a variety of different information. I think it's definitely helped us as coaches. I remember when I had to go be an offensive line coach one year, had never coached offensive line before, and literally within the middle of 21 days, you can become an expert on being an offensive line coach, drills and different types of things, and hear from some of the top coaches in the country. And I'm just wondering, for whether it's coaches, athletes, parents, the opportunity for online training, and whether it's specifically related in terms of developing skills for the sport, or if it's ways that we can help just give the kids a better opportunity out there to maintain a sense of sportsmanship and participation.
Yep.
How is online training working?
Yeah, it doubles back to what I'm talking about, the money we're trying to get. This is exactly what we're shooting for. Is so like for our coaches school, we've done it in person traditionally. It costs us $20,000. We'd serve about 350 coaches, and the labor to pull it off. We've gone online. We serve 4,000 to 6,000 coaches a year. And I'm a big believer of let's have our meetings in person wherever we can. Like, relationships are important. But there's certain things that we need to learn we can get directly from online learning. So as an old guy, I'm trying to adjust to this new world, right?
All of us are.
But so we've done that. The other piece is that we've been out researching. So Bruce Brown, Proactive Coaching, Washington guy, right, based out of Camino Island, longtime Bellevue area, Seattle area.
Great man.
Yeah, so he's taken his trainings and partnered with a company called Neptune. And there's 8 modules. So all the things that he used to come and speak to, that everybody's like, yes, that's it. That's what we need to do. And then he leaves, and then you're like, how do we implement this? Like, what do we do next? What's the next steps? They've put it into online learning, 1-hour modules. So every coach could have access to it, get the information with their teams, and then they've developed the activities to build it out. So how do we implement? Has been done. So now it's just a matter of implementing and reinforcing. And so, there's a cost to that. So what we're trying to do is it's great leadership training to be available to every single student, not just your 3 captains. So part of what we're talking about with funding is, one, negotiate a lower price if we can scale this out across Washington, and then use some legislative money, because we believe if we do that with all students, their behavior will change for the better, and some of these sportsmanship issues will get resolved. There's topics in there that could be discussed with a skilled coach to be able to do that and walk them through exercises to hopefully help start changing the behavior issues that we're seeing.
And that's positive news for all involved, for athletes, coaches, and players.
Yeah, it's accessible to everybody. Everybody can. We all have a cell phone. Come on. Even Bob Stanley, longtime Yakima AD, he switched from the original flip phone. So, if this man did it, we can all do it. Right?
The advent of esports, and my son's still a big popular esports guy. They love it up at O'Day. They got cool uniforms now.
Daniel, put us on the clock.
Oh, we're on the clock. Just one statement just around esports. Mick, how is that coming along, and are we seeing more kids participate in esports?
Yeah, we have an amendment up. We're hoping it passes, brings in a different student, and it combines traditional athletes with non-traditional athletes. You talk about building community in schools. So we can spend some time on that down the road.
So
Justin's leading that for us, but yeah, absolutely, that's something we want.
And it's something that we will. So for Mick Hoffman, the executive director of the WIAA, the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association, thank you so much for your time as usual. And please come down here and see the Colliconcha Museum Thursday night, the 15th, here at the Columbia City Theater, Nasty Mix reunion. Daniel Bellis, thank you so much. And so long from the headquarters, the center of the universe at Rainier Avenue Radio.